Hello, and welcome back to Monifactory. Last episode we did a lot. What did we do? We made the large chemical reactor, which we'll use eventually today. We started getting a couple of EV machines going, along with getting EV circuits being able to be processed. We started getting a couple of EV machines going with the rock breaker and the polarizer, and we ran a tier 2 micro miner mission, which I actually just ran another one of these a little bit ago. And we also unlocked nichrome coils, allowing us to smelt more materials. So where does that leave us for today? Well, today we need to make the distillation tower. I think I'm finally gonna do it. I've been smelting an insane amount of stainless steel to make this. So yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use these distillation towers to make epoxy, which we need for the next tier of circuit board, but we have a lot of petrochemistry work to do first, and that's all gonna start from raw oil. So we need to take this raw oil that we're getting from drilling the void. We're going to distill that into 4 different gases. This is going to give us the sulfuric version of each gas, which we then need to chemical react with some hydrogen to get the normal version. We'll then need to crack it with steam in order to get steamed cracked, and then we will run that through another even larger distillation tower to get 12 different oil products. So we have a lot of work to do today. So to start, we're gonna move our oil drilling rig over to our new oil distillation line. I'm gonna run this whole thing on 16 amps of MV power, which we're getting from these 4 HV turbines, because again, these aren't always being used right now. We can always make more of these. So let's connect this up. We have a 4x transformer to convert 4 amps of HV power into 16 amps of MV. And then that way we can run our raw oil drilling rig off of that. Now this is where we're going to build our first distillation tower. We're going to have raw oil as the input, and it's going to get distilled into sulfuric heavy fuel, light fuel, naphtha, and sulfuric gas. For each output that the distillation tower has, you'll need 1 output bus, and that is in correlation to how tall it needs to be. So because we have 4 output buses, it needs to be 5 blocks tall. Then we have our distillation tower, which is made from EV circuits and HV stainless steel materials. We can run this at MV with just 1 output energy hatch. And then everything else should just be these stainless steel casings. We'll just build these all the way up to the top. And then this last layer with the output bus just becomes the top. And somehow it's incomplete. Oh, that's because I have output buses, not output hatches. Whoops. Alright, let's try this again. There we go. This should now be working and producing all of these sulfuric fuels. We're going to store all of these in just some aluminum drums for now. Not for now, probably forever. Because these are immediately going to get processed and desulfurized. So we're going to have each one of these go into a chemical reactor. I'll need some pumps to get those imported. Pump, 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 pump. Import, 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 import. That should take care of that. We'll connect these up to our power. And then I also need to import hydrogen into each one of these. That will allow these to be desulfurized. So let's import this, pipe it into all of our chemical reactors. I think we need a pump here too to export the hydrogen. Or no, to import it into that system. There we go, everybody's got hydrogen now. All of our fuels are starting to get desulfurized now. Now, I didn't quite consider how I'm gonna get the hydrogen sulfide out of here as well. Maybe I can use these non-opal fluid pipes. Each one of these is made of 9 small aluminum pipes, and then they can each hold 9 fluids inside of them. So I think that if we auto output these and then connect all of them up, we should get every output in here. We'll figure that out next. Let's get hydrogen sulfide into a tank. I'm just gonna configure these before I connect them up. We'll store hydrogen sulfide on the front because the other ones are gonna go back into some tanks right here. So if I connect this up, it should import all of the hydrogen sulfide into there. I can't tell, but I should have this shuttered so that it can't so that it can't extract from there. I can't tell. It's definitely connected at least. So now let's get a tank set up for heavy fuel, light fuel, naphtha, and then refinery gas. Cool. Now nothing should be getting backed up here. Everything should be going to the right output. Cool. I wasn't actually expecting that to work. We can lock all of these so that nothing else can go in. Wow, this looks kind of cool actually. So our next step is going to be to take naphtha. Whoops. And we're going to crack it to get severely steamed cracked naphtha, and then we can distill this to get all of these oil products. So this is where our chemical reactor is going to go. We will pump in the naphtha. We're also going to need this fluid heater so that we can make steam. Let's just do it above here. So with infinite water in a fluid heater, that should make steam, which we can auto output to our chemical reactor. And then this should make severely steamed cracked naphtha on circuit 3. And then this is going to be our input for the bigger distillation tower. So we'll get this one set up now. We can again just run this on 1 amp or 1 MV energy hatch. This one will also need an output bus because it's going to produce tiny carbon piles. And then we'll need 12 energy hatches. This one needs 90 stainless steel casings, and that is so much stainless steel. This stuff takes forever to make at this stage. While we're waiting on the rest of that stainless steel, we can make an MV mixer. We're going to use this to combine heavy fuel and light fuel. We can use these tanks to auto output as well. Now these two together will make diesel. This can be used in a combustion generator to generate electricity, but we're going to use it later to make cetane boosted diesel, which is an even better power source. And soon we'll be able to make the large combustion engine, which is a multi-block version that's going to generate higher tiers of power, apart from these single block turbines that we're making. So let's auto output this and store it. Okay, let's make 90 stainless steel casings. This is ridiculous. Let's make this easy on ourselves too. Uh-oh, that's not right. Ta-da! Ah, so the input hatch has to go on the bottom layer for some reason. I really wish I had flight right now. The good news is that the output hatches can go on the corner. We can have them output to the front. There we go. Now we can pipe our steam cracked naphtha into here. And this should start distilling into all of the byproducts. Now, everything besides heavy fuel and light fuel, we're gonna want to put into a tank. So we have toluene, benzene, paraxylene, butene, butadiene, propane, propene. We have ethane, ethylene, and methane gas. So we're also gonna want a storage bus on each one of these. And then the light fuel and heavy fuel, we're going to import so that they can get stored in these super tanks over here and be recycled into diesel. That should take care of our distillation tower here. Oh, and then we will have to deal with the tiny piles of carbon, which I think we can just pack into normal carbon dust. Let's just put it into a packer on circuit 1, bring over some cables. This should make carbon, which we can put into a drawer with a storage bus and a void filter. Awesome. That should fix everything. So there are a lot of byproducts that we got from this, and we're eventually going to use all of them, I believe. But what we're going to do for today is we're going to start making epoxy. Epoxy is made from epichlorohydrin phenol, acetone, and hydrochloric acid. I know that all seems like a lot, but we'll be able to do this now. Let's start with epichlorohydrin. This is going to be made in a large chemical reactor. So we can finally get the first chemical reactor working. Now that we have EV, we should be able to make these ME input hatches, which will basically remove the need for us to have ME interfaces on our multi-blocks, because we can just request the items like that. So let's make a recipe for this in an HV assembler. I'm also already running out of pattern provider space again. Can I make one of these? Awesome. Just had to make patterns for all of the components. It's actually really not that expensive. Oh, I made a recipe for... Oh, I made a recipe for the input bus. Whoops. Let's make one for the hatch, too. Let's check and see how this works, though. How did I get an interface there? Whoops. So we should be able to replace our input bus with one of the ME input buses, and it should still work. Now I need to get down here and get the cabling. Oh, jeez. My least favorite part of the day. Now, in here, we can request the items that we want to input. So, for making epichlorohydrin, we need to input sodium hydroxide, which we should have in our system. Sodium hydroxide. Let's just set this to 64. Now we should have 26 sodium hydroxide in here. I mean, that makes it really easy. A lot more condensed, too. Let's try the input hatch now. So we should just be able to do the same thing and request the fluids we need. So for epichlorohydrin, we need water, propene, and chlorine. I set up a super tank with water inside of it, and this has an infinite water cover on it, so we should always have water that we can just pull from our system. And then all three of those are in there. And then on circuit 23... this needs 4,000 millibuckets of chlorine. How do I change that? There we go. We can knock this down to 3 as well, since it only needs 3 for the recipe. These input hatches can also be interchanged by using a screwdriver to make it an output hatch. So because this has 3 fluid outputs, we're going to use this instead. We'll do like this and just keep it nice and organized on one side. So boom, our output hatch should be ready. Ah, it needs energy. That's why it's not working. Boop, boop, boop. It did work. We got epichlorohydrin. So I do have enough room here to fit one more large chemical reactor in order to wall share. So I think I'll do that, and then we'll make epoxy in there. I'm also going to change this pattern to use those ME input and output hatches instead. Actually, maybe I'll just do those separately and remove them entirely. Then I can just deal with the inputs and outputs later. Oh, also, I made this nifty little clipboard from Create. This is super cheap, and it's like a little notepad. We can make a checklist of all the stuff that we need to make. So we can check off epichlorohydrin and propene. Something else I've been meaning to make is ME conduits. By covering some ME cables in rubber, and then putting these in an assembly machine with conduit binders. And this stuff is just sand, gravel, and clay. That's gonna get us those ME conduits. We're gonna get 8 of those per recipe. So there's 32 right there. Yeah, so 3 cables turns into 8 ME conduits, which is going to save us a lot of cables. The only downside is that we still need the cables to actually connect to the machines, but that we can use these in between everything, like this. Now, I know I want another LCR here, but I'm going to get a storage setup for hydrochloric acid, because it seems like we're making a lot of that in different places. And we also need it in a couple different places eventually, so we don't want to just go ahead and electrolyze it back into chlorine and hydrogen, since it's already made. That way we also don't get like an infinite loop of it going. So that should get stored in here. Salt water we can electrolyze back into chlorine, hydrogen, and then we get our sodium hydroxide back from this. So we get a nice infinite loop of this stuff that we don't have to make more. Let's electrolyze this stuff. We should be able to use an ME interface here to import salt water, which is here, so I'm not sure why it's not going in. Do I need to store this first? I'm so confused. Where could it be going? It went in here and then it disappeared. Oh, it is in here. But why is it not going in here? Maybe I need a pump. There we go. And then can we just auto output this back into the ME interface? Yes, we can. Beautiful. Except that's not going out. Yes, it does. Okay, awesome. So that takes care of salt water. Now we have epichlorohydrin. We need our next large chemical reactor. We also need to fluid solidify some PTFE. We should be able to make some ingots out of this. Or is it plates? It should be. Oh, because it doesn't have power. And then we can add this output to a drawer. I don't need too many, so I'm going to put a downgrade on this. So it should only be able to hold 64. Because I don't want it to use all of my PTFE, because I still need some of it. Booyah. Also, make sure you set a filter on your importing pump, because somehow mine managed to input the chlorine that went into the ME interface. Let's set up another LCR. Oh, and I need to change this off of Nichrome. I forgot. So we shouldn't actually even need the coil block, because it's on this side, and we can share it with our next one. So we should just be able to run this at MV. I'm probably going to get rid of this and just run this at MV for now, just so we're not using too much power. All we need now is an ME input bus, an input hatch, and an output hatch. And can I do this? What happens if I plug this in to a 16 amp cable? Is that wrong? I don't think so. Just save me some space. Now my next fun test is to see if I can share this input bus, because both of these take sodium hydroxide. So can I put this here? Then we have our ME input and output hatches formed. Let's see if it works. So we need to input epichlorohydrin, phenol, acetone, and hydrochloric acid into here. So it does seem like for some reason we need to store our fluids from the output bus before we can actually use them, instead of it just being able to pull from here and put into this next one. For some reason we have to store it first, which is weird, I feel like. A little janky, but I suppose it's fine. We're missing acetone and phenol. We can knock out phenol by sodium hydroxide, chlorine, and benzene, which we're now producing from distillation. We need another LCR though. Alright, getting chemi reactor number 3 set up. So for making phenol, we're going to import chlorine, benzene, and water. This will make phenol, hydrochloric acid, and diluted hydrochloric acid. The diluted hydrochloric acid we can pull and distill back into normal hydrochloric acid. And let's store phenol, and that should get pulled into our epoxy maker. Now we just need acetone. What do we do for acetone? Okay, so we can take carbon monoxide and hydrogen to make acetic acid, and then use that to make acetone. So I think I need 2 more LCRs. And I need to make sure that our carbon monoxide from titanium making is not getting electrolyzed down. We can import it instead and just use this. That should work, I think. Should be the last 2 LCRs we need for today. We're gonna have one for acetone. And acetone is made from, I think we're gonna do this one from quicklime and acetic acid. And then acetic acid is just carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So I think that makes sense to do. If there's a better way to do it, let me know. Because there's a lot of them. But we need our ME hatches and everything. For acetone, we just need to import acetic acid. We'll have our output as well. And then we need to input quicklime dust. And this is not consumed, so we only need one of these. I just need to figure out how we can get that centrifuging ashes or lava. We should have plenty of ashes. We can centrifuge real quick to try and get one. And then same setup for this, except we're going to input hydrogen and oxygen and carbon dust. Should be able to connect everything up now. With all of our inputs set up, we should be able to start making acetic acid. We will, of course, need to store the acetic acid before it can be used. So that should get pulled into here for making acetone. Oh, this is an HV recipe, so we need 2 MV hatches. We can move our input hatch up here. Let me find some ashes to centrifuge. I think this is the only centrifuge I have at all. Ah, there we go. That's all we needed. It looks like acetone is getting made, which will again store, and then that should get pulled into our epoxy making. And then let's see, what am I missing for here? We do have everything. We just need circuit 24. And should be making some epoxy. Yes, wonderful. This is also going to give us salt water and diluted hydrochloric acid. Both of those we're already dealing with. Alright, let's finish up the epoxy line by storing it into a super tank, because we'll need to pull it to use elsewhere. We're going to auto output this to a fluid solidifier. That should make sheets. And then this will go into a drawer. I'm going to put a downgrade on this so it only keeps 64 in here. Then we'll need a storage bus for here, a storage bus for our drawer. And then I think that should take care of it. So yeah, that's epoxy. I think our only bottleneck right now is chlorine. We just unfortunately don't have a really good way of generating chlorine right now. Now that we do have epoxy though, we'll be able to make the circuit boards for the next tier of circuits. So we'll want a recipe for our circuit board reactor. This will also take electrum foil. And then the normal circuit boards take gold foil. So let's pop this in here. This in here. And some foils. And that should do it. That is a lot of gold and electrum though. So having epoxy circuit boards unlocks the next tier of circuit. We're missing a couple more things though before we can make these. We're gonna need an EV circuit assembler first of all. We're also gonna need nano CPU chips, which I'm assuming is the next tier above the normal ones. Ah yes, these are made in an EV chemical reactor with glowstone, raw carbon fibers, which we can make now that we have epoxy, and then the normal CPU wafers. So we'll be able to make these, cut them into CPU chips, and then use them for our higher tier circuits. That sounds like a project for next episode though. I have no idea how long these episodes are anymore. I kind of just go until I feel like it's a good stopping point, and I feel like this is. So with that, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.